What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Flight Time. This is episode number 11. We've got a pretty interesting conversation coming at you guys today. We are talking, what is the end game for drones?
You know, you brought this topic up, so I think you need to elaborate a little bit. Usually we come up with our topics like the day of. I don't know, that's just how it stays fresh. And also being able to like do it the night before, post the next morning, everything stays current. That was one of the things we ran into when we were doing our first podcast, is like we tried to film them in bulk, but then we'd be posting one at the end of the month and it could be like totally irrelevant by the time. So it's pretty cool to be able to talk about this, you know, before we actually upload it. So again, just go ahead and give them a little bit of insight as to why you thought about this.
So what made me think about this whole what is the end game is because as anything, and I'm looking around, I'm seeing things, you know, happen in the phone industry. You're seeing things sort of plateau, and it also seems as if, you know, a lot of times with drones we're butting up against regulations, and that's usually sort of like that breaking ground that prevents things from happening. So ultimately, I'm just wondering, you know, where are they hoping to take all this technology, and how long are they going to make us wait to see the great things we keep seeing at every CES? They're talking about drones taking over potential air traffic. You know, what is their ultimate end goal with drones beyond consumer? I'm talking about beyond consumer. So we're taking a deep dive into all this.
Well, I sit here and I think about phones just because you brought it up, and it's actually kind of crazy how they've plateaued, and they've come to this point where now we've got 12 gigabytes of RAM in a phone.
Isn't that nuts, man? That's absolutely nuts. What do you need that for?
We've got 3 cameras. We've got 2 cameras on the front. The bezels are gone. I mean, it's almost hit a point right now where I don't need anything more in my phone. Like when this new iPhone rolls around, what are they going to be able to promise me, or what are they going to be able to deliver that my current iPhone isn't doing, other than just another camera lens? Now look, will I buy it because I'm like a tech junkie? Yes, I will. But I find it astonishing how the smartphone market, I feel like it almost came to a screeching halt, and the current trend now is making these great phones cheaper, and that's what we see with some of these Chinese companies, like these pop-up companies like Pocophone, for example. They're all coming out with these great phones, and they're so inexpensive.
It's so true. I'm not a big fan of like those crazy, you know, one-off phones or anything like that. But I have gotten a chance, you know, take a look at them. I'm not really all hip on the phone scene like I used to be. I used to be, you know, really into that. Like that was my jam. But as of late, I have just sort of not really cared about it. Does that make sense? I didn't even almost care, you know, what phone I have today, which is sort of crazy to think about that, you know, once upon a time, that was what I cared about. And now I don't care. I just don't care about the phones like I used to.
You know, the way that I see it is like for the past 5 years, we were really getting great phone after great phone after great phone, and these phones are still great, but they're all starting to really blend together, and they need to do these things like have flashy colors in order to stand out.
Right.
But I think that the next area we're gonna start to see a bunch of innovation in is laptops. And we've seen these dual screen laptops in like Asus, or Asus, however you say it, where you've got the screen above the keyboard. We're seeing all these funky little things being implemented into laptops. Now, I'm boring. I still have my MacBook. It works. That's my workhorse. But on the PC side of things, we're seeing a ton of these crazy designs, and I think that in the future, that's going to be where we see a lot of innovation, at least for the short term. Long term, maybe smartphones will come around after technology has advanced over years and years and years. But when I first started my channel, I was like, man, I really wish I was doing smartphone reviews. But at this point in time, I'm kind of happy I'm not, because
Me too.
What is there to talk about?
It's you know, and it's the same thing every time I see, and it's like, I'm honestly glad I transitioned my channel away from smartphones. Like I you know, it's such it's a saturated, you know, genre, I guess. Is that something we can call it? We call it a genre.
Yeah, it is.
It's saturated, and it's to me it's boring, And I think that there's nothing left to really talk about that's cool anymore with a smartphone like a drone. Like, you know, when I saw, and I guess what made me think about this whole thing was the fact that no, we haven't seen a new drone, and the fact that the Mavic is so great. I mean, it really is. There's a lot to like about it. I mean, all the drones that are on the market right now that are current within a year old. I'm even thinking about the Autel Evo. I mean, it's a great drone. I mean, when you think about how much better you can make these things, I think really the only thing I can ever think about is, you know, battery life getting better. But beyond consumer drones, like, I'm just wondering, you know, what do they ultimately want to have happen? Do they want to replace, you know, air travel with drones? I mean, obviously we've seen hints at, you know, using a drone for delivery, but none of that's passed any sort of regulations yet.
That, I'm going to touch on regulations in a second, but I do want to, I kind of wanted to wrap it all together. Like, you know, we're sitting here talking about how smartphones are boring, yet we haven't really gotten a good drone since the Mavic 2 came out over a year ago, and here we are still talking about it. So people could be crazy. People could be looking in at the drone scene and saying, man, look at the drone scene, it's kind of dead because there hasn't been much released. But I think that just like with the laptops, this market is ripe for the picking because DJI and Autel and, you know, Parrot's kind of exited the whole like consumer drone thing except for the Anafi, but there's only a couple of companies out there doing it, and it's only going to take either one of those competitors to DJI or somebody totally different. Like, they're not going to do it, but somebody coming in like Apple, totally revolutionizing the scene and kind of making DJI want to come out with these new drones, because right now they've got no reason to come out with anything else. Their drones are still top of the line. The Phantom 4 is still one of the greatest drones you can buy. The Inspire 2, the Mavic 2, they're all, you know,
would you
some
buy
of the best
a Phantom
drones.
4? Like, I got to ask you, and I don't want to cut you off, but I got to ask, would you buy a Phantom 4 today? Like right now, if you, you know, if you were thinking about it, you're like, you know what, I've got couple extra bucks to spend, would you buy a Phantom 4 today, or would you buy an additional Mavic for redundancy?
Probably an additional Mavic, and my reasoning behind this is because you can go out and you can buy just the body, you can use your same remote, you can use your same batteries. It would be nice, I was talking to Steve about this. He's selling his Phantom so he can just buy the shell, the body of a Mavic 2, and this allows him to just continue to use the same exact batteries. He can use the same exact remote controller. Jumping between the Mavic 2 and the Phantom, there is a little bit of like a difference, I would say, in terms of handling, speed, performance, power.
I was just gonna say that.
And that would be like, I've got the Sony a7 III right now. That'd be like me going out and buying like a Canon camera and like as my backup, and it's just like, why would you do that? You'd want to just buy another Sony. But here's the thing is, like, if the Mavic 2 wasn't out right now, which again, I don't even think that DJI really had to release the Mavic 2. The original Mavic Pro still would have sold like hotcakes. It was still a great drone in its own right. But if I was in a position where like the Mavic 2 wasn't out and I had to choose between the original Mavic Pro and the Phantom 4, I'd probably go with the Phantom 4 because again, I'm a big proponent of camera quality, and it totally kills the original Mavic Pro.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Having the Phantom myself and trying to fly it the past couple of days on some gigs, I started off with the Phantom because I'm like, you know what, I really want 4K 60, and I want that, you know, I want that 1-inch sensor so I can slow it down in post because I'm thinking I'm going to need to this time. And I'm like, I started out with it and I was like, nah, never mind, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to go back to using the good old Mavic Pro. I think that'll get the job done for me this job. So
yeah,
ran into that a couple of times.
You know, and I think that we're kind of at a standstill with drones because obviously the consumer market hasn't been updated since the Mavic 2. We continue to see little drones dropped in like the commercial space, which is pretty cool. But again, they're not crazy upgrades. I mean, the Matrice, the M200 series version 2, we just got OcuSync and we got some lights on it and a couple of other little things. But again, I mean, there's really nothing crazy going on. And I think that for us to progress any further towards this said end game would be regulation. That's the biggest hurdle, because there's so many things that we want to be able to do with drones. Like, we want to be able to deliver packages. We want to be able to deliver organs between hospitals. We want to be able to do all of these things, but current regulations, like not being able to fly beyond line of sight, not being able to fly over people, are holding back a lot of the really big innovations. And I think that scares some companies, because they don't want to pour all of this money into their research and development just to say, oh, well, we can't do this because of the rules.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any other word to say other than it sort of sucks. When you really think about it all, because it really bothers me that these rules get hung up so hard. More so like with the package delivery stuff, for instance. I think that bothers me a lot, because by the time it does get approved, or what they'll do is they'll linger things into approval processes, and then I feel like what they'll do is they'll strip away rights of pilots before they're actually ready to fly. You know what I mean? To prep the airways years prior. So I would hate to see stuff like that happen, before they get like regulatory approvals and things like that. But I mean, there's got to be some sort of end all be all end game that they have in mind with utilizing UAVs in multiple different spaces.
Yeah, and what it makes me wonder, in the future, with so many drones being put into the air, and these drones being used for different use case scenarios, like, how are they going to be able to split everything up? Because I don't want to have to be dodging Amazon drones, and I don't want to have to be dodging Uber taxis. You know what I mean? So, do we say, okay, drones still have to stay under 400 feet if you are flying for recreational or commercial purposes, but then these autonomous drones that carry people and carry packages, well, they are going to be flying between 500 and 600 feet. So it makes me wonder what is going to happen in terms of like airway traffic, because right now it's not like I ever am flying around and run into other people flying drones. I mean, I guess the one thing that comes to mind is when we were in Baltimore driving back up from Florida, and we were like, hey, is that you? No. Hey, is that you? No. So there was somebody else flying a drone there, which that was probably the first time I've ever been flying. That's the first time I've ever
seen that, actually.
Yeah, I know. And think about all the times you've flown, and that's like one of the first times somebody else's drone has just popped up out of nowhere, sitting above us, which was pretty funny, actually. But think about going out and looking up into the sky and just seeing dozens and dozens and dozens of drones flying all around you. Like, as much of a consumer as I am saying, yes, I want things to be delivered with drones, I'm also sitting there thinking, like, man, it could potentially really ruin flying drones for everybody.
Yeah, and that to me I think is the most bothersome thing about it, is because these companies will lobby for airspace that technically it doesn't really belong to anybody. It's regulated airspace, but they'll lobby for that, and chances are, because they have the money, they will win that suit, which really does suck.
I was listening. Do you listen to the H3 podcast with Ethan and Hila?
I listen to them periodically. He's an interesting guy, man.
I know.
He's definitely interesting.
I started watching H3 a while ago. I mean, when I was in high school, like sophomore in high school, and just have watched them from them. And it kind of sucks that they only do their podcast now. I'd love to see them still do like the sketches or whatever, but they recently had that guy, what is his name? Andrew Yang, the guy that's running for president.
Oh, yeah.
And I listened to it. I even listened to the one on Joe Rogan with Bernie Sanders. And it's really interesting to be able to hear these guys, because, if you watch any sort of debate, they barely get any time. But I'm sitting there listening to him, and he's a CEO. He was most recently the CEO of a nonprofit. But he was saying, I mean, these guys like Jeff Bezos, they run circles around the government because they're so slow and they're so out of touch. I mean, when you sit down and you see Mark Zuckerberg testifying in front of Congress for the whole Cambridge Analytica thing, him having to just explain to these people how technology works, like how Facebook works, I mean, these people are very old. They really don't understand how technology works, and I really hope that doesn't come to bite us in the ass when it comes to regulating drones with the FAA.
So here's my thought on that is, one, I agree. I think there's a lot of old mentality in politics, and and I'm not going to get political here because believe me, that's not what this is about.
I was going to say we should pump the brakes on the political talk.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you got to catch technology and mentality have to come to a crossroad where they meet one another. So that way everybody can understand, because when we're talking about regulations, unfortunately and unknowingly, there's also politics at play. I mean, every time we grab our drones and we realize, we can't fly. I mean, just look at today. The FAA tweets out something that is so ridiculous, that is so assways backwards, which makes no sense. If you are flying near JFK, you can no longer use the Lance authorization to be able to receive right of passage in Class C airspace, or I'm sorry, that's Class B airspace, JFK. You have to use the drone zone, which can take up to 48 hours in order to approve your flight. If you're flying near JFK, that's within the allotted airspace. You can't use Lance. They've said that nope, you got to go through the drone zone. So for whatever reason, it requires a 48-hour approval process now.
I'm looking at it right now.
That's sort of silly.
How does that even make any sense?
Why is that? And are other airports now going to get the same exemption?
I'm looking here. Brendan Schulman said why.
Yeah, it's exactly, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. Is why?
And
why?
John is the CEO of Kitty Hawk. He says it relates to the new operating rules and a metadata mismatch at some airports. So this sounds like it could potentially be like a temporary thing, maybe.
I mean, they make it seem like it could be, but the reality is this is. I don't know. Like I guess I have a trust issue with these people. With just in general with all of this, and I don't know if it'll be necessarily something that's going to be temporary. That's just from things we've seen. Things we've seen over the course of a year. I don't know.
What's pretty interesting is that they tagged Drone DJ in this post, which is pretty cool. They tagged Drone DJ, but they didn't tag Droning On, which is kind of weird. But look, I think that the end game for drones could get pretty ugly, and that's what I'm kind of afraid of. Is losing the ability to fly for fun.
Yeah, and that I think that is what honestly scares the vast majority of people, but I don't know necessarily a lot of people understand how to react to that. They get upset, they get mad about it, but I don't think that's the right approach. I think there's going to need to be a more level-headed approach in order to handle these newer regulations, especially fighting a lot of these things like we're seeing here.
I mean, look, I'm in college, and I know that after college, I want to do something with drones. Like, my end game is to do something with drones. And I love posting YouTube videos, but if it comes to a point in time where, YouTube is maybe not around or something like that, I'm still going to be doing drones. I'm still going to be doing construction, real estate, agriculture. I'm still going to try to attack all of these avenues, whether or not I'm going to be able to do it on my own, or whether or not I get hired by a company and I specifically work for them. I know that I want my future to be with drones, and as much as it sucks, I can see it continue to get harder to gain just the ability to even fly. I mean, just like I was saying, if we have a ton of drones in the air delivering packages, transporting people, where is my space to fly and get my work done? So in terms of work, it could totally kill me. But dude, just as well as I do, we go out, we fly 4 batteries in the morning. We come back, we charge, we fly 4 batteries at nighttime. I mean, we're always flying for fun when we're together, and I'll always fly for fun. I mean, we were talking about.
I agree.
And we were talking about in our previous podcast, like we don't want to, we're doing work with our drones, but we don't want to forget why we started, and that was flying for fun and getting some really epic footage of the places that we travel to. And I am going to do that until they take my drone away, because seeing some of the spots, I mean, I was actually watching some of my videos today, seeing some of these different areas we've gone and we've flown. I can only imagine trying to get those shots would be 10 times harder if we had all these other drones in the air.
So here's something that, I've been seeing a lot of too, is like a lot of places now are ban in flight or set in flight to where you have to have approval or have a waiver in order to fly there, which you used to never have to worry about that before. But I think it's University of Arkansas just recently put out that you can no longer fly over the campus without a waiver, which is interesting because most campuses don't care. I flew Auburn, I flew multiple different colleges, and I've never had a problem. Usually it's just, use common sense, don't fly over people, that sort of thing. And we're good.
We flew at my campus. And
we were doing a school project.
We were gonna say, if anybody came up to us and gave us any razz, we were gonna say that we were just filming a school project and that we were film students. Which I am. I'm a film minor, so I guess that works out. You're just my VO.
It was just a half truth.
Well, what was I gonna say? Oh, what type of waiver? Like you have to get it from like the actual school themselves, right? Like you've got to talk with them.
Say that again.
If
I don't know, you have to get special permission from the school itself. Whatever they require you to get, you have to go through their proper authority, or I don't know. You know how that crap goes. They try to make it to where basically you're not going to be able to fly.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about it. Like I can see this turning into like the gun laws, like we've got these areas that say no drones, and there's areas that say like no weapons. And in the state of Pennsylvania, those no weapon signs aren't enforced. So I could see this becoming like like weapons in the future. Like imagine like they can't take our drones.
Yeah, what's it kills me is there's been no accidents or anything malicious here in the States in regards to drones whatsoever. So it makes little to no sense why all of a sudden all of this is such an ordeal when we're dealing with something that's relatively safe. I would say, I think it's fair for me to say that, because there's been no accidents.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that a lot of it is operating through fear. Like we saw the whole Gatwick situation, which of course it wasn't a drone. No drone was found. It still has not been reported that it was because of a drone. I don't even, to be honest, I don't remember what happened with that situation in the end. I think it just kind of fizzled out. But
yeah, they got very quiet on it very quickly, and again, no sort of sign of drone. You're right.
I mean, look, you're the United States or the FAA, and you say, wow, this airport was shut down for X amount of hours, a major airport, and if one single person can shut down Newark Airport, one single person can shut down JFK or LAX, and if that was like a planned, coordinated thing where like only 4 people put up 4 drones and shut down 4 of the largest airports in America, it's not going to do permanent damage, but it really could mess some things up. So you look at that as an outsider and you're like, wow, we should really do something about this before something like that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea of being proactive, but it sort of goes against things that we're founded on. What are you gonna do? You're gonna live in fear? You can't do that. You can't. I get being proactive, but I just think that there's a lot of silliness in regulations, and I can see it getting worse. But I don't want people that are listening to this podcast saying, oh shit, these guys are, talking gloom and doom. No, we're not. We're talking about the possibilities of what could potentially happen, but we're not saying it's going to happen. But we want, a lot of people to understand that these are the possibilities that lurk. These are the things that could potentially go down over a period of time. And you don't want people to be disappointed when, a hobby's basically restricted to, specific fields. I don't think they'll take it away from us totally, but I think they'll really clamp down on where you are allowed to fly.
Yeah, and I sit here and I think about how I brought up that the biggest obstacle to get to the end game of drones, or to even begin to see more progression with drones, is regulation. And everybody tries to think of regulation as something that's a bad thing, or that's going to limit you. But like we saw just recently, right, with hobbyists, they now instituted LANC, and everybody was like, oh, well, for 2 months I wasn't able to fly in controlled airspace. But think about it. They just made it so much easier on you. So regulations can be changed for the good. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts. It was even back when our podcast was the Overcast. We were talking about how the FAA wants to allow Part 107 pilots to fly at nighttime, and also, what was it? To fly at nighttime and over people.
Yeah, so we still have okay, so they, again, they've granted waivers providing you've have some sort of parachute or fail-safe system, but we've yet to see the approvals for night waivers, which I think that needs to happen. And maybe it's coming soon, because we're seeing a lot of these companies put a lot of time and effort into making these devices that can be mounted to the drones so you can see them at a safe distance in the dark. So I'm wondering if we're getting closer. Maybe there'll be an announcement soon. I would hope they would get that going sooner rather than later, because down here in Florida, hurricane season is going to be coming up. Natural disasters happen. Search and rescue need to be able to get in the air, and to have to sit there and pull waivers and whatnot to be part of a search and rescue team, if you're running thermals or one of the enterprise products, would sort of be stupid.
The whole entire waiver process is so ass backwards. Having to apply months, maybe not months, but weeks, maybe months in advance to fly at nighttime. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's like what we were talking about last week, when we were like, okay, so for one single shoot, we need a visual observer, a pilot in command, a site supervisor, and somebody flying the drone. Like, you need 4 people. Like, come on. Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't, but still, it is what it is.
Something that just came to mind, and this kind of, I'm thinking about this because of the tweet that I read from the FAA, and then John from Kitty Hawk responded to them. Is that new app out yet that Kitty Hawk is developing?
I believe the Before You Fly app is out. I've heard and talked to several people who've downloaded the new app. I've never used Before You Fly because there's just so many better options beforehand. But now that you mention it, I'm going to my phone and I'm going to try to download it. Was it Before You Fly?
My phone is over on the charger,
so I'm gonna probably say yes. This is the new app because it looks entirely different. The icon looks really clean, and it's powered by Kitty Hawk. When you open it, it's got a disclaimer. Wow, this is really, really svelte.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a bigger announcement about that.
I don't know. It's nice. Oh, you know what's nice about this? It provides you your longitude and latitude, which a lot of applications don't provide you. I like that. It's using Mapbox.
I just downloaded it here on my iPad mini, and even just this beginning screen, this is so much cleaner than what we had to deal with beforehand.
So clean. So you can say get Lance. Okay, so I'm going to say okay. Now it wants me to open Kitty Hawk though. So when I went to go hit Lance authorization, it's wanting me to go to Kitty Hawk. So it seems like you can't do the approvals. Oh, and now there's longitude and latitude in this one as well. So it's, I'm looking at like where I'm at. I'm sort of by the airport. I'm permissible, where my house is for 300 feet, which is pretty good actually.
This is awesome. This is a great app. I'm surprised that I haven't heard anything about this yet.
It's very similar to Kitty Hawk's app. And Kitty Hawk looks like they've just recently did a pretty good size update on theirs as well. So both, I mean, I just use Kitty Hawk. I know people like Air Maps. I don't like Air Map. I've never been a big fan of that application. I just have always felt that Kitty Hawk gets it right and it's intuitive. I like how I can load my 107 number into that. I can get, quick authorization, and and it syncs all my flights back from my DJI application. I have it synced so I can see all my data here as well. I don't know. It just definitely so much better.
You know what? Speaking of the DJI app, this is something that I know that we kind of discussed on Twitter. Integration. I think that an area that needs to be greatly improved, even on the DJI products, is their app. They need to integrate better with other applications, whether it be Kitty Hawk, Air Map, before you fly, in order to input this information when we apply for authorization in an area. And also, the software experience, I think, needs to be tightened up. Like, the framework is there, and they've done a good job at squashing some of the different bugs, but there's still certain things that drive me insane. And I know I've spoken about this before, but I would love to see them implement some sort of cloud account with DJI so that when I set my settings for my drone, it is going to keep those settings no matter what device I'm using and what device I'm signed in on. And something else about this, about being able to sync between devices, is your waypoint missions, because I use waypoints for construction purposes. Like, I'll set these waypoints so I'm shooting photos in the same exact spot for progression photos, and I do a little bit of tweaking as I'm flying around and it goes to different points, but I've got it saved on my phone and I can't use my iPad. It's a real pain.
So I'm using my Crystal. I'm not using my Crystal Sky. It's actually, I haven't used that thing since I don't have a controller still. I need to get a spare controller. That's on my to-do list. But I've been using the smart controller, and I had a meetup in Tampa the other day. And what's funny was I went to go fly, and it was saying that I was in an airspace, like a Class C airspace, Class D airspace, which I flew the same park multiple times. There's not, and there's no airspace that requires authorization in this one specific area. But the DJI Go 4 app would not let me take off, even though I had authorization. And that to me is the most annoying thing. There's nowhere where I can enter my 107 number on that application in order to gain access. The other thing that sucks is trying to enter an authorization on the smart controller in landscape mode is like a life sentence. You want to talk? That is my one complaint, is if you're going to make me enter this information, at least allow the keyboard to flip into portrait mode. For Christ's sakes, there's a GPS and an accelerometer in this controller. Allow me to go into portrait mode so I'm not cursing and wanting to smash a $650 controller. I mean, it was the most aggravating thing. And again, I didn't have my phone because I didn't have a spare controller. Because if I did, I would have damn sure connected that so I could have did the authorization. Or here's an idea. They allow you to Bluetooth the applications, and you can gain approval on your phone and send it to the controller without having to be connected. I mean, what do I got to do? I'm screaming like, damn it, DJI. Listen to the people who fly your products, because they're all telling you some really good things that you can implement.
Well, we sit here, and as much as I love Kitty Hawk, as much as all of these apps are great, I would like it even better if they were just totally cut out of the equation and I could do all of that right within the DJI app. I mean, within that application, when you're on the home screen and you're looking at the drone, like it has the graphic on there, the picture of your drone, you should be able to just go and check the map right from there. Even if they integrated with an app, even if they partnered up with Kitty Hawk and they had a little tab that said map, or they had a little tab that said airspace. I mean, come on, that would be huge.
Here's something for you. Hear me out. This is wildly out there. What if, listen, you know how we have Windows computers, and Windows can be installed on multiple different types of hardware. What if the FAA said, okay, in order to fly a drone, we want there to be one consistent software that the pilots, one consistent dashboard. You, as the manufacturer of the drone, can add whatever configurations or settings to the software that you want, but you're going to load it and build an application that looks and syncs and talks just like every other interface if you're going to be flying a drone. And it can be powered by Kitty Hawk, Air Maps, doesn't matter, but they'll load their SDK for each specific drone. So if there's a firmware update for that unit, it's got to run through this application. So it's like a universal app that runs, and it looks the same on every drone. So that way, no matter what you're piloting, it always looks the same.
That would be really interesting.
I mean, I don't know where I just thought of that. I mean, I'm not drunk at this point. I mean, it's Tuesday. I didn't even eat tacos, but I feel like I work best late. Like my ideas. I should be sitting in a think tank, I think, at this point.
I think you should just be writing that down.
I should. I feel like I should be screaming patent pending or something.
There's just so many features that the DJI app is lacking. I mean, even between drones, right? Like I think it's like on the Spark and the original Mavic Pro that dynamic home point is like a thing, and it's not a thing on any other drone. Like why on those older drones is there dynamic home point, but on these newest drones I couldn't turn it on. It's not even a feature. Like that is no sense. One example.
It makes no sense. And you know, it's funny. You know, with that smart controller, there is GPS built into the smart control. I was wrong, but for some reason, it will not update my home point when I'm on the water and not connected to internet. Makes no sense. I don't know if it's maybe something specifically wrong with my controller. I'll have to look into it further, but I found that I was having problems with it updating my home point, which makes zero sense.
You know, man, I've got like a list of things that you know, in the future I want to buy. Like whenever I see something cool, I'm like, all right, let me save the link to this. And I've had the smart controller and Crystal Sky on that list forever. I sit there.
I'm gonna tell you, skip the Crystal Sky, 100%. The Crystal Sky, I get it. You got the Inspire, so there may be some allure to having a Crystal Sky, but with how much you fly your Mavic, I'm honestly gonna tell you that part of the reason why I am so happy with the Mavic and like I can't really find much of a fault with it is because of that smart controller. It's made the game so awesome. I don't have to worry about phone calls. I'm powering on the smart controller and I'm connecting to the drone so fast. I mean, it's just such a seamless product. And like, I mean, somebody who travels, I don't want to have to worry about other things. If I forget my phone in the car, guess what? I've got my controller. I mean, and the battery life is honestly not that bad. It feels like it's gotten really good. It does take a long time for it to charge, but man, is it so pivotal to what I do, you know, every single day. I couldn't create half of what I create without that thing.
You know, I was gonna say though, I was trying to build up to this point, and you just totally cut me off.
Sorry, man. I do it. I had to do it to you.
I'm sitting here. I'm thinking to myself, like, I just got this iPad Mini, and having LTE on it makes flying with it so awesome.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I'd want to fly with anything else other than my iPad Mini, and I'll use my phone like on my Mavic when I'm in a pinch. But I actually have one of those adapters that I put in, and I've been using the iPad with the Mavic, and it's cool. I probably still will just continue to use my phone in the future, but especially with my Inspire, using this, being always connected, having the maps load up instantly, being able to update the firmware if I need to right through my device without turning on a personal hotspot is money. And I really want to make a video about using LTE on the iPad, because I know you have had LTE on all of your iPads, but this is the first one I've got LTE on, and it's awesome.
So I do all of my iPads do have LTE. I won't buy an iPad without it, because I'm always finding myself in a pinch where I definitely need service and somebody doesn't have Wi-Fi and I don't want to tether off my phone. But now that I've finally made the switch to unlimited data, it just made more sense. Like, just use the iPad with unlimited data. It's so great. But the problem here in Florida that I had with utilizing iPads is that screen does suck up so much sun.
Yeah.
And inevitably, no matter what you do, and I don't care what anybody says, you're going to end up having that iPad overheat. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
And as soon as it gets even remotely hot, it dims. You know, it gets really dim. So then I find myself arching and trying to cover the sun with my back. So it definitely has its drawbacks, but I don't know, man. Recently I've been liking it, and I think that I'm going to continue to use it. But again, the smart controller, the Crystal Sky have been on my monitor on my radar. And I really think that they've got to come out with a second version of that Crystal Sky because they can do so much better.
Yeah, they definitely can. I just would. I don't know when. That's the problem, man. I don't get it. You know, I don't get why they've taken this long to try to make one. I mean, I guess they don't really need one though, do they? You know, do they really need to make a Crystal Sky?
From what I've seen, man, that interface is so laggy. I mean,
it's terrible.
That's another reason I just want to stick with my iPad, like because it's smooth. The app runs well. It even gets features on my iPad before the Smart Control and Crystal Sky get it. You know, like
yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad, dude.
I got a funny story to tell you. I'm gonna put Steve on blast here.
Yeah, dude, we can't go a single episode without mentioning that poor guy. I feel like if we ever get this monetized, we're gonna owe him a lot of money, dude.
I know. Well, once the ads start rolling in, no. But I'm sitting there and I'm flying my drone and I get a call. He goes, dude, the smart controller finally saved me. And I said, oh well, what happened? I was thinking, forgot his phone or whatever. He goes, I had no SD card, so I was able to record to the internal storage. And I said, well, you know the internal storage is in the actual drone itself. And he goes, really? Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. And then he's like, come to think of it, I think I had an SD card in the back of my smart controller. So, like...
oh, jeez. I can just picture him going through the process of this as you know, as he's like figuring it all out, like just.
He does listen to this. I don't know how much he listens to of it, so I'm not going to tell him that we talked about this.
Hopefully, you didn't get that far, dude. Oh God.
I just that's so funny to me. He's like, first of all, he has an extra SD card in his damn drone that he could have just put into his Mavic.
Dude, I shouldn't be laughing. I did the same thing.
I guess he thought that the internal storage was in the controller or something.
So I did the same darn thing this weekend. I was flying that house and I was like, you know, I've been trying to take my time with things, like making sure that I'm you know, checking like, you know, my configurations and just making sure that everything is set, auto white balance, whatever I'm doing, making sure it's good to go. And I took off without putting an SD card in the drone.
Worst.
And, you know, it's only got like 16 gigs of capacity on that, you know, and I'm like, crap. I'm like, and I was shooting a lot of footage. And when you shoot in D-Log-M, it takes up a lot more space because the bitrate's so much higher.
I'm pretty sure it's only 8 gigs, not 16 gigs.
Is it? Okay, well, whatever it was, yeah, you know what, you're right. It's the Enterprise that's 16 gigs. Anyways, it was like a matter of moments and it filled up and I was so lazy. I'm like, I don't want to do it. So I ended up having to go back over the next day to finally like finish capturing the footage that I needed for that house that I shot. Cause I was like, it's just, sometimes I'm like, I just don't want to like, it's so cumbersome to put an SD card in. I don't know why. It's such a stupid thing to say, but
I just can't believe they only put 8 gigs in there. Like
yeah.
that's like 8 minutes of 4K video. Like, come on. Or it's like 11 minutes or something like that.
It's almost an insult for them to do that. And I mean, DJI, if anybody from DJI is listening, which they're probably not, they don't care about our podcast. Screw Billy and Ken. I'm just joking. Not really. But yeah, 16 gigs, whatever your next move is, fellas, 16 gigs. That's
no, they need more than 16. They need like 32
I'm
or
being
64.
real, dude. You're gonna ask for 6. If you ask for 16, you're still gonna get 8. I guess we should ask for 32. Ask for 32.
We should be asking for 128 gigs. And
Could you
also,
imagine? Could you imagine if they did it like Apple?
Dude, you see how they're putting a terabyte worth of storage into these little SD cards. Now, granted, they're expensive, but I went out and I bought a 128 gigabyte SD card, the Extreme Pro, one of the fastest that you can buy from SanDisk. I purchased that for $30, 30, not $100, $30. You're telling me that they can't put more than 8 gigs inside of that drone? Come on.
Listen, I'm not telling you anything. It's not my place to tell you things. So, but
well, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, dude. You're just gonna cut me off like this, Bill?
Yeah, I am.
I think that's ridiculous.
I'm finding a new co-host.
You can't find a new co-host. You don't pay.
You're right. I'll just do it on my own. I did it once on my own.
I know. I heard from traffic reports that somebody wrecked their car because they fell asleep.
Wait, what?
No, I'm just messing with you. It was a joke. It's over your head. All right, guys. That's going to do it for episode 11. Way derailed off topic, but that's okay. That's what you listen to us for. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.
No, we'll see you Friday.
Yep, Friday.